Hi, this is CKnappenberger, and this is my Module 10 for AEP880 in the fall of 2020. This module is about creating an environment where students are known, accepted, valued, and respected is vital to bullying prevention. Some of the article summaries that were provided in the module. The first one being the 3 essential priorities for school principals in order to prevent bullying inside of the building, emphasizing a caring and inclusive school environment. This means that the building leaders need to emphasize being inclusive and caring for students and having less of a discipline model and more of a caring and inclusion. Also allowing staff and faculty to embrace their own leadership roles, having them take leadership roles in their own classroom and within other parts of the building in order to kind of have that leadership role throughout the whole building and not just be put on the shoulders of the one leader. Also, in collaborating with your community, our families need to be involved in this in order to prevent bullying in our buildings. We need to be connected to our families. We also need to be connected to our parents to better serve our students and understand our students in order to care for them and include them in the building. Looking at how feeling respected transforms a student. As the standard says for this module, we're looking at building an environment where students are seen and heard in order to feel connected to the building and to feel valued as a part of the learning community. And so how that kind of respect relationship can transform how a student views school and how a student acts at school. One of the pieces of text that I found was the idea that relationships are critical for students to develop self-control in order for students to kind of be able to control themselves and to have a better school experience. They need to have relationships with teachers or even a teacher. As this article stated, that even having a relationship with one teacher changed how a lot of students acted with all teachers. One of the things in the article that really stood out to me here was the idea of learning students' names and pronouncing them properly, how far that goes in showing a student that you see them and you understand them and that you want to know them and have a relationship with them. The article also talked about race and respect and the idea that racial stereotypes exist in teachers because they are humans, and that does exist, and kind of looking at how we treat behaviors of students in a manner which is consistent throughout all racial populations. Often stereotypes, like the things that is that glue that puts together behavior patterns that often wouldn't be there if the race element wasn't there. Also, this building empathy, like I had said earlier, having a relationship with one teacher, being that teacher or that administrator, that adult in the building that has a good relationship with all these students, it can serve as a buffer and help with other challenges that perhaps that student is having in the building. Creating a warm and inclusive classroom environment, planning for all children to feel welcome. This looked at 3 different things, and it was classroom design, classroom procedures, and classroom strategies, and all different ways to show students, not necessarily verbally, but just by the environment, that you want them to feel comfortable and you want them to feel a part of the school building, and that you're not looking for them to be uncomfortable or to put them in a situation where they might be uncomfortable. Designing your classroom to be welcoming, to be neat and organized so the students don't feel like there's chaos in the room. Looking at procedures, having different procedures for your class specifically, making traditions for your class, but also those traditions can involve the students. Conducting those classroom meetings where all the students and the teachers are involved in what's going to happen and talking to them about procedure, talking to them about the day, providing them perhaps some choice in the classroom itself. Looking at classroom strategies, we need to teach children this idea of self-advocacy and advocating for themselves when they feel as though they're not being treated properly, when they feel as though things are happening while an adult isn't present that perhaps an adult should know about. And also having them be reflective to avoid negative behaviors. We want our students to reflect on their own behaviors and also to be active listeners, actively listening to their other classmates and to the teacher themselves to kind of figure out and reflect on what's best for them. Strategies for building a productive and positive learning environment. these were different ways that principals and teachers alike could kind of build a more positive environment inside the building. Making sure learning is relevant, having the students learning skills and material that is relevant to them. They are a diverse population. Our students by nature are a diverse population. They're coming from different places, and making sure that what they're learning is relevant to all of the students and not just a small portion of them. Having a clear code of conduct, how you expect them to behave and what is expected in the building, even before any negative behaviors occur, is helpful in kind of putting it out there. They're your clear expectations for all students and staff. Positive actions curriculum. This looked at the idea that all positive actions do positive things. Positive actions leads to better behavior. Positive actions, self-reflection, not bullying other students, all of these things to do with the entire school building led to higher self-esteem, right? If we do certain things, if we reflect on our practices and get students and teachers, then we can have positive outcomes. Intrinsic motivation, different ways in helping students want to be motivated, not just because they have to, but because they want to be. What is it that they're reaching for that makes them intrinsically motivated? Is it their success? Is it what they want to achieve or accomplish for themselves? What goals do they have for themselves in order to be intrinsically motivated to do things? Always reinforcing positive behavior. Making sure that when a student does do something, that you notice it and you show them that you value it and you make it known that you see what they're doing and that you really appreciate their positive behavior. And again, always responding with positivity, trying your best to not be negative to a student, for them to be valued and respected and feel as though they're part of something. They don't want to be looked down on or yelled at or reprimanded in a negative way. They want to be shown what to do to be better. And that's kind of what this last piece was about, is that responding to them in a positive manner in order to, so that they can see that you respect them and you value them in the building and that you're putting efforts forth to show them that. Some of the articles that I researched on my own, the first one was bullying prevention, and this was by the PBIS, positive behavior intervention, and looking at how you can prevent it. What are our kind of foundational blocks and how we can try to prevent bullying before it occurs? Setting clear school-wide expectations for staff and for students, what is expected of them, what you're hoping to gain out of the school year, and how you'd like them to behave. Signals and routines for unwanted behavior. The article spoke about having a very quick, a very non-invasive, essentially, signal for showing a student that that's unwanted behavior, rather than yelling or reprimanding or making a public spectacle of it. There could be a signal or some type of routine that occurs when a child has a behavior that is unwanted, so that they recognize it without having to be called out. Responses to the stop signal. So this is like how it is that they're supposed to respond when they get this signal. What is it that they're supposed to do? The routine that comes with when the unwanted behavior has occurred. And again, this is taught before any negative behaviors to kind of put that procedure in place so the students are aware of what is expected of them. Recruiting help. This goes to looking at the community and families, right? We're a diverse population. Not everything is going to work for every person, and we need to kind of recruit that help of other staff members in the building, other faculty members, also families and the community at large, in kind of showing them that we're trying to take steps to prevent this bullying and what our routines and what our expectations are for all of our students, so that they are aware at home and within the community. What are the best ways to prevent bullying in schools? These, again, were just some of the tips or tricks or ways that we can attempt to prevent bullying within our schools. That positive school climate, which I know keeps coming back up, this idea of showing students and people, that we care about them and that we want what's best for them, and that they're a respected part of this building, right? Everything that we put in place, the curriculums, the programs, whether they're educational programs or extracurricular programs, everything is put in place to benefit students and to show them that we care. And that's kind of building that positive school climate. Advancing social and emotional learning, this idea of looking at the whole child, looking at the whole student. They are more than just bad behaviors in class. They are more than just struggling in the classroom. There is a social intelligence and an emotional intelligence that goes with each one of these students. And we need to show that in our learning. We need to have activities and have different things occur within the classroom to help build their social abilities and their emotional abilities, how to deal with that anger rather than lashing out or picking on another child. How can we deal with that anger or that emotional feeling that that child has that seems uncontrollable? How can we do that? Also going along with that was bullying at different age levels, understanding that this social emotional learning is going to look very different based off of the age of the child that we have. If it is younger students, we need to, deal with different positive behaviors that way, how to deal with our emotions. As students are going into the middle grades and we're looking at puberty and all the different kind of effects on our social and emotional learning that occur because of those hormonal changes, we need to look at that. And then also high school is a whole different thing, right? They're going to be adults. They're going to go out into the world. How can we teach them to be better citizens and to not only not bully inside the classroom or in the school, but how as an adult to not be that person who does that out in the world or in the workplace. The last thing is looking at that schools, and again, this keeps coming up, that schools can't do this alone. We need family support. We need home support. We need to reach out to them to show them what we're doing to build this positive school climate, to show them that how we're doing this social emotional learning so that they're aware, so that they can either mirror that at home or to kind of reinforce that at home. 6 ways educators can prevent bullying in schools. This is just ways, again, teachers, principals, administrators can help prevent bullying. We need to teach kindness and empathy. Going along with the last article where we talked about social emotional learning, this idea of kindness and empathy needs to be taught. We need to show them how to do this. Create opportunities for connection. Now, this can be to each other through different social emotional learning techniques. This can also be a connection to an adult, building that positive relationship so that students understand that we value them and that we want to connect to them and know what they're going through. And we want to talk to them about how they're feeling and what's going on. And again, that connection will build a better environment inside the school. Identifying gateway behaviors, this idea of what is it that students do before they are bullying? How is it that they're feeling or reacting to certain things, perhaps before they take it out on another child? And how can we as adults help with that and kind of identify them and attempt to curb them? Again, using the arts, we can create context for students. Often it could be difficult if a student isn't being bullied or isn't bullying to show them what that might look like. How can that be? How can we show them with examples and use our arts to create a context for these students and to also create an outlet for students who are feeling that they are being bullied or are feeling these different emotions that might lead them to bullying. Minimizing concentric circles. This was interesting that I didn't really see in other places, but I did see it in this article. And this was the idea that teachers can be bullies, and that when teachers feel bullied by a colleague, they might take that out on their students, and the emotional toll can be so much more, and kind of not creating this concentric circle or just is in right one after the other. The teacher gets bullied, teacher bullies a student, student bullies student, right? And just kind of minimizing that and having teachers recognize in themselves how they're feeling and how their emotions are affecting things to kind of stop that behavior to continue. Participating in simulations. This was looking at the idea of having students act some things out, having them stand up and show you that bullying isn't always just pushing someone in the hallway. Bullying can be a whole number of different things, and kind of making sure that students understand that it can be a number of things, so that we don't just want to say oh, I didn't push the kid, so I'm not bullying him. Well, that's not necessarily true. And participating in simulations so that students have a better idea of what bullying could look like. This article looked at 5 different tips. It looked at 5 tips for teachers, 5 tips for principals, and 5 tips for parents in order to kind of help prevent bullying. Now, again, much of it was mentioned in other articles, but this was a very quick, easy to grasp article to give to teachers or to parents to kind of make them have a better idea of how they can help in the bullying prevention. Because oftentimes it's seen as, the teachers do it, not the parents, or the teachers do it, not the principals. And we want to make sure that we see that there are tips that everyone can do to help, because, it takes a village. And looking at, assess what the problem is, assess what bullying looks like in our building so that we can better respond to them, practice what you preach. Again, going back to those concentric circles, we don't want the bullying to continue. We don't want it to be a pattern that continues. Increasing adult supervision. This is very interesting because thinking about teachers, thinking about where bullying may occur and kind of how we can put ourselves in those places so that perhaps that does not occur, whether it be in the hallway or in the cafeteria or outside at recess, and kind of increasing that adult supervision. And then also conducting bullying prevention activities like I had spoken about in the previous article. For principals, knowing what your school and district policies are about bullying, knowing what it is that they say. Treat others, again, practice what you preach. Treat the students and others with warmth and respect, the way that you would like the students to treat one another. Conducting classroom activities around bullying, discussing it with colleagues, discussing it with your staff, and also take immediate action when something does occur. And this will, again, prevent further bullying. It might not prevent the original incident, but it will prevent it moving forward. And again, being consistent in what it is that we do for our actions for bullying based off of our district and school policies. And then for parents, making them feel as though they're a part of all of this. We want them to talk with their children every day. They might be able to hear about something or know about something that we didn't see at school. Spending time at the school, when schools have the opportunity for parents to volunteer, telling parents that just to be there, just to kind of get a sense of what students are around your child and also kind of what's just going on in school. Be a good example at home, right? Again, practicing what you preach. The last what I thought was interesting for parents is making sure they understand what bullying looks like. Again, going back to it in the last article, I talked about those simulations in the classroom, but also talking to the kids at home so that they understand, and also creating healthy anti-bullying habits at home, right? Perhaps with siblings and also with parents, and also kind of being that good example where, as a parent, when you're dealing with someone on the phone or you're dealing with a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant, and just being aware of how you treat that person so that your children don't assume that these behaviors are acceptable. Looking at the data that was on bullying that was provided for the module, and some of the things that I brought out of that was that the majority of bullying is occurring when adults are present. I know that one of the things I said was a tip was to provide extra adult supervision, but it seems like we said 29.3 is in the classroom, 23.4 is in the cafeteria, and 19.5% is in the PE classes. These are all where adult supervision exists. So we kind of need to be aware of that we might say, oh, well, bullying's happening in the hallway. And that's not necessarily always true. And bullying looks different all the time. So we need to kind of be aware of that. Also, the majority of bullying is not physical, right? And having our students understand that, as well as we understand that, it's name calling, it's teasing, it's spreading rumors, it's spreading lies, it's doing these types of things. If you notice, those are large percentages of what bullying is considered. And also, one of the big pieces of information I brought out of this is that a lot of our students aren't telling adults. They will not tell an adult. And that is something why we need to prevent bullying in our buildings, but we also need to be aware and kind of how these programs and things are being put into place. Knowing our students, understanding our students, and making these efforts is what's going to help us prevent them in our buildings. So, what missing policies and procedures allow this to continue, right? Like, how is it that bullying is occurring in these places? And thinking about some of the policies and procedures that are missing, there's a lack of a plan on how to act in the building, meaning that we have not put that code of conduct out there. We have not told our students how we want them to behave or how we need them to behave when they're within our building. Communication has not been clear about bullying policies. This could be to the staff, this could be to the families, this could be to the students. Communication isn't clear about what our policies are inside the building. There is a lack of adult supervision. Again, I know that this might not be the biggest piece, but this can help curb some of these behaviors. Letting students know that you are there. And again, not even just as a disciplinarian, but like, I'm in the hallway so that you are comfortable walking through the hallway. I am in the cafeteria because I want to see how you're doing. I want to make sure you're okay. These kind of ideas of this adult supervision can seem very, captive type thing. And that's not necessarily what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, I'm present because I care. I've put these in place because I care, my policies, all those things. And one of the things that could be missing that would allow this bullying to continue is that lack of a homeschool relationship. Having the parents understand what you want, having the parents understand what your expectations are within the building so that they can model, again, those types of behaviors at home. So what happens when all these steps are followed, when all these recommendations are followed? Our school productivity increases. Our student-adult relationships make positive gains. Students have increase in self-esteem. We've got participation in our school activities. We've got kind, positive behavior throughout the school. We've got this just general sense of more comfort within the building, and therefore we'll see success. We'll see success within relationships. We'll see success within academics. And because of all of these things, again, when we follow all these steps and we show our students that we care, and we show our students that everything we're doing is to have a positive impact for them and their future, all these increases occur. There's this positive environment that gets created, and there's increase in productivity across the board, teachers, students, academics, social, all of these types of things. These are my references for the module. Thank you very much for watching.